Welcome to
Positively Literary.
Halloween edition. So we are foxes?
I'd say we're foxes. Do you think we're foxes? What do you think? Leave a comment below of what you think we are.
You know when you say you're a fox, that has another meaning? Because you said, I say we're foxes.
I say we're foxes.
You look very foxy, my lady. Okay, Halloween. Okay, let's start with saying, what's your favorite thing about Halloween? Like a favorite memory or...
Okay, this is not the nicest memory. I mean, it's a happy... This is gonna sound... It's a good memory, but it's not a good memory for somebody else. But it's a good memory for me.
Okay.
Okay, back when in my younger days, you know, prankster days, I should say.
Oh, you were the prankster.
I did a trick, a mean trick. I know, it's awful. It wasn't my idea, though. I can say that.
So you're going to confess this on...
Live.
Live, okay.
So maybe if the girls out there that this happened to, she can... Hi, I'm sorry. So I had a friend, and it was his idea that we trick people or like scare people for Halloween, right? So he set up at his house a prop of like scarecrows, and we dressed up as scarecrows. We even stuffed ourselves with hay. So we were very convincing. He did most of the scare though. So anybody that came to the door, we would pose as scarecrows, and then I would do a blood-curdling scream, and when they weren't realizing it, he was following them behind. So they turned around from the blood-curdling scream, and they would see this scarecrow right in their face.
Well, it's all perspective, because you could look at it as a service that you were doing.
A service.
Because you pay for haunted houses that scare you.
There was this little girl.
Oh, no.
She came to the door, and I wasn't going to do it, and he was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, and then I was like, "Okay," and I screamed, and he was following behind her, and she lost it. Okay, the parent was laughing, but I felt really bad. I feel like we traumatized this poor little girl.
But up until the poor little girl, you guys were having fun.
Yes,
and it's a
it
fun
was
memory.
fine.
Now, like, you couldn't have been that young if you're like went to the trouble of like stuffing your...
I was a
in on it.
teenager, like I was probably around 17, 18, and he was like 30. Something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now the story really is getting scary.
Anyways, yeah.
They're just friends.
No, his wife was there. No, it was a family friend, so it was like a theater
and you
friend.
guys were having fun on Halloween. So it's funny because something like that happened to me and my mom and my sister when we went trick-or-treating. And I think it was a scary clown that was sitting in a corner. And sometimes you go to a house and they have a bowl that says like take one because they're not home or something. So there was a clown and it looked like a mannequin or whatever, maybe the way he was kind of sitting and holding a bowl. And we're like, okay, take one. And we went up and we were taking like, oh, should we take two? Like we were just kind of talking and we had no idea it was a real person. And same kind of thing. He moved and, I don't know, spooked us or said something. And we screamed so loud. And I think if I was little, I would have been traumatized, like you said. But since
She's probably like from the age 10 to 11, 12-ish.
Okay, I guess that's not super little. I was imagining like a 4-year-old, but
No,
that's still scary.
We weren't mean to the little ones. Okay.
What I was hoping to find in the garage was a picture of me when I dressed up as Dana Scully from the X-Files, and I cut my hair and dyed my hair red. And,
wow.
like, and made it exactly how her hair was, and I think I really did look like Dana Scully. And so, and I had the dress suit from Value Village, and I printed out and got the perfect
name
tag. So this was before social media. So the only photo I have, honestly, is the photo in the garage that was taken with like an actual camera, because I don't think we didn't have smartphones at that time. So I was really sad that I couldn't find the photo because I wanted to show it, because it looked like, I really looked like Dana Scully. Everyone who saw me was like, it's Scully. And then there'd be like aliens, people dressed up like aliens, and if they saw me, they'd be like, oh, and run away. And this was back in the day where you could have a little rifle.
Toy.
Yeah, that didn't have.
I don't know if we can use that word on social media.
I thought about that.
A toy boom boom.
And it didn't have the orange end to it, so
it was realistic.
It looked real, and I don't think it was a problem at that time. I would not recommend doing that nowadays, because I was told that the police have to treat anything that looks like one without an orange end. They treat it as though it really is one.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. So then you can like get thrown to the ground. And I feel like our happy Halloween memories
are like a little trauma.
They're both turning negative. No.
Sorry.
But I do like Halloween, and our topic today isn't specifically Halloween, but it's Halloween edition. But we are going to talk about scary books. Like, there's so many different zombie books, thrillers, mysteries even, because they can be... Stephen King, yes. And even we'll talk about dark romance a little bit, because let's say in a dark romance, there's stalking or some kind of, and all of that. So I'm excited. And I don't even know if you could see my dollar store poster. I had to tape it together in pieces because it came in pieces, but it's a hand coming out of the grave. No, that's not zombie. We did start talking about zombie and how your husband made you watch a zombie movie and you hated it
all the time. Anyways, before we get into that, tea.
Oh, what are we drinking?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. I had passion fruit latte that I loved so much that I got it again. And you know, it's a fun purple color too. So, but I wanted...
It's so Halloweenish.
Yes, and I wanted a cold drink.
Beverage.
That's why I got it again, because I wanted a cold drink in this, because I don't feel like this would hold a hot. But I absolutely love that it's Halloween themed with the little cats and stuff. And the little cat ears. And I was like, I'll be a cat. But I think these are kind of
more like
foxes or wolves or something. But we've decided it's fox. Yeah.
But this one is Forever Nut. And I love anything nutty. Sorry.
Forever Nut for a forever nut.
And it's orange.
Remember in one of our episodes, I edited out, I think, but you said, and we're blonde.
And we're blonde.
And I laughed so much. Oh, it is orange. Because I was blonde at the time.
Yeah, you traitor. We needed a redhead in this, okay? Let's be real. Like, blonde and redheads together?
Yeah.
We rule the world.
Yeah. I'm liking it. I think it turned out good. But back to zombies and things that don't look so good. Okay, so books. Are there a lot of zombie books?
They're sci-fi.
Oh, it would be, or even dystopian. Like, they're not necessarily called zombie books, but that's...
Yeah, they would be in the sci-fi section. But yeah, there's zombie books. I think there's even, like, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a book written in diary format of a person surviving during a zombie apocalypse.
Oh. Hey, that zombie movie that you watched that you did like, and it's a romance.
Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies. Was that originally a book? I feel like I should have looked this up.
I don't know. I feel like we need, like, a moment to, like... Warm Bodies.
Yeah, see if it's based on a book.
Not Worm. It was a book. So, it was by Jonathan... What's his last name?
What? Based on Isaac Marion's 2010 novel.
Oh,
And what an interesting concept. Okay, so when it comes to scary books and they're talking about, I don't know, creepy things, I wouldn't normally read that, but I feel like Warm Bodies would be an interesting read.
There was recently a book trending on TikTok that was really intense. It's like a horror romance.
Oh.
Do you remember we were talking about it?
Oh, so you're talking about dark romance, and it's Haunting Adeline?
Yes, that was it. It has like a skull, right, on the cover?
Yeah, a lot of those dark romances do. Okay, if we're jumping straight into dark romance, no, we can kind of start there, because that is what is trending a lot on TikTok and Book Talk. And okay, I did mention this, I think, in episode 1, but I did finally think maybe I'll read one. Okay, this is a funny thing. I told my daughter, she thought it was hilarious. So I have a sci-fi fantasy series, and it has romance, so it's kind of romantasy. And so it's a enemies to lovers romance.
Yeah.
So he's the bad guy. He's like a Dark Lord kind of guy. And yeah, there is a romance in it. So I thought, oh, I wrote a dark romance because the guy was her enemy, and then they're together. But it definitely wasn't a dark romance.
Not a dark.
I was going around saying that I have a novel, like a dark romance, but then I found out what it really is. So kind of to give you an idea, like it could be stalking. We talked about stalking.
Grape.
Yeah, and so non-consent stuff. And I haven't read a lot. I'll tell you about the one that I started reading, because it was my first experience with dark romance. There was a filter where above your head it shows you, it flashes and it stops on one. So what it was different dark romances, and then it stops on one. So I landed on one, and I told myself, whichever one I land on, I'll read.
Interesting.
So I landed on one, and so I got it thankfully as an ebook instead of like a physical book. And it read like fan fiction. Now, I love fan fiction, and I have written fan fiction. It read like fan fiction of maybe someone who's like 13 years old, and I won't put that down, but that's how it read, because she's in school, and then
That's twisted. I'm sorry. That's too twisted.
No, I'm not saying she was 13.
Okay, I was like...
I think the character was supposed to be a teenager, older, like maybe 17, but it definitely, the point of view, the voice was so young. It was like middle school young, like the way it was written. And I overlooked that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I like young style. But then when it got into more
of the graphic, steamy.
Yeah. Welcome back. Once again, our camera stopped recording. But one of these days, we'll get through an entire episode without the camera stopping for various reasons. But I'm just gonna, I guess, finish what I was saying, and it leads into the next topic. I was telling you the voice, the POV was very young. So, and I can suspend some things, not suspend, but maybe look over for the sake of intriguing romance, things like stalking or even bullying. This one had more of a bullying aspect, and I'm like, okay, but secretly we think he's hot. But what I couldn't handle,
he was mean.
And even mean, I could be like, okay, he's mean because one of my characters is this bad, evil lord, and then he's got a good side. But what I couldn't deal with, I guess, is there was pain. So as soon as pain got involved, I was like, I'm out. And that was pretty quick. It was like chapter 3. Neither of us really understand the appeal. I don't fully understand it. And you were saying something interesting during our break.
Like, time hasn't really changed. Like, if you go back in time, their entertainment was like people getting eaten alive by like lions and stuff like that, or like put to
the Colosseum, is that what it's called? And then they're watching this, and that's entertainment.
Or gladiators, just like really graphic things. And how like you would think over time we have like evolved to like we're not that barbaric, or we don't like to enjoy, but like some of these dark romances or stuff like that,
or just horror,
or it's just it can be really graphic, and it's like, wow, I don't think we've actually evolved that much from that, because we're still going out of our way to read kind of disturbing things like that. Even movies, watch disturbing things like that. I don't know,
I never understood it. I did reach out to a local author who writes horror. So he writes horror. So I haven't really read any of his books because he writes horror. But his name is Con Lavery, and I'll put that on the screen, conlavery.com, his website. His books are like about gangs, drug lords, demons, the underworld, strange things, like unsettling and dark stories, that kind of thing. So I wanted to know, I asked him to answer this question for us, because we don't really get it. Why do you think people enjoy reading horror novels, and what do you enjoy about writing them? So here's Con. Let's see what he has to say.
Hi, my name is Con Lavery. I'm a Canadian horror and dark fantasy author, and I think people enjoy reading horror novels because I think it's multifaceted. I think it's because there's an excitement that comes with it, being scared, and it's not for everyone, but for a particular type of people, there is that excitement blends into like having thrills. It's probably why thrillers are popular, or amusement parks, haunted houses. There's a rush that comes with those kind of jump scares, builds up adrenaline, gets the heart running, and that's one type of being scared. There's other types of horror as well, beyond just shock and quick value, but a deeper simmering one that you see more in like cosmic horror or slow burn type novels, and those really leave you feeling unsettled and gives you something to think about. And I think that helps people remember just some of the good things in life, and also grounds people to remember that there are terrible things out there, and experiencing it through fiction allows and helps people understand their own emotions and just what else is out there in the world. So whether it's made up, cosmic entities, or some horrific family drama with murder, that is why I think people enjoy horror. Some of those, exploring their own emotions is pretty much what I think it comes down to. And for writing, it's quite similar for me. This is why I enjoy writing horrors. You get to explore the deep roots of the human condition through these emotions. And I kind of throw horror into, like, you got fear, you got anger, you got all those different human expressions that are really interesting as a writer. So the good positive ones are as well, like happiness and laughter and love. Horror as a genre, I quite enjoy it because of the freedom you have with writing. Some other genres tend to have kind of set things ready to go. Tropes is what authors generally call them. And with horror, there are tropes too. You got your zombies, you got your paranormal haunted house for the family that just moved in. So you got those typical tropes, but horror also tends to be quite broad, and what we consider to be horror also changes based off of trends and what year it is. So like we commonly consider the Frankenstein novel to be horror, but it's technically more of a sci-fi. Depends who you talk to. So yeah, that's why I quite enjoy writing it, and I get to just explore some really, really fun, outlandish things. And thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Okay, so thank you, Con. Like, that's an interesting take, right?
Very, yeah. And we would like to hear from you guys. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do you enjoy horror? Like, what is it that keeps you turning the pages or going back?
Yeah. Or why do you choose not to read it, right? So kind of throwback. When I was a teenager, I read Pet Sematary. I feel like that's very Halloween vibes, and I'm trying to remember. I remember it scared me. It scared me, and probably at that age, like, I had a cat, and just this idea of, first of all, of my cat dying, and I don't even know how I got through this book. But I did read it, and it was very engaging, obviously, because it really... Would this be horror? No, not horror.
It's horror, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would say it's
so maybe
horror.
I have read a horror book.
But
it's just different. There's an animal coming back from the dead. Like a zombie-like thing, which I'm not very big into zombies. But it has like a ghost feel to it, right? I'm going to also talk about Gillian Anderson's... I've been reading this one, and I feel like this one feels dark to me, because it's like this unexplained things happening to these people, well, these kids that like start to wig out. I don't know. It is very interesting, and it's Gillian Anderson from the X-Files. Oh, can you see her? I loved Gillian Anderson so much, and I watched the X-Files. I don't think I could watch the X-Files now, because I'm so much more sensitive to things like horror and people, I don't know, being dismembered, or especially like the spiritual stuff, I don't want to get into any dark spiritual stuff, so I don't read that stuff. Even about ghosts, unless it's like a ghost romance and we're keeping it really light. But you had interviewed an author once as a journalist, but also we're going to mention an author.
Yeah, I interviewed Kimberly Calkin. She wrote The Ghost of Lil. I'm almost done. I'm almost through the book. I had to put it down because I just got really busy. But so far it's a really, you could say, tasteful horror. Like the thing I can like kind of relate it to, and I haven't read the book, but I've watched like the series, is The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, I actually watched that too. So
Yeah.
okay, maybe I've seen
it's
some.
like, it's kind of like that. It's tasteful. Like, it's not as like graphic with dismemberment details,
Plus, it's based on these ghost stories in real life, like real ghost.
Yeah.
So we also asked her, wanted to get her take on. Her question is it emotionally difficult to write ghost stories about murder or death, and how do you detach your emotions? So we're gonna see what her response is to that.
Hi there, my name is Kimberly Koken, and I am the author of the paranormal novel The Ghost of Lil, which is a ghost story which was inspired by the tragic history of the Crow's Nest Pass in the Rocky Mountains of Alberta, Canada. Writing a ghost story can be difficult because if your story is well written, then you have hopefully written characters that not only your reader will become attached to, but that you yourself as an author are probably attached to, especially by the time that you get to the point where something tragic is happening to one of your characters. So that was a difficult thing for me. I was drawn to writing a ghost story because of the emotional impact of it, because in my opinion, a ghost story is actually more sad than it is scary, because usually it is the result of something tragic that has happened to somebody in their lifetime, and they find themselves trapped in a loop that repeats over and over again because of that tragedy. So it can be difficult to write a story which involves death and hauntings and things like that. But there also is that side where, as an author, you get a really great sense of satisfaction if your audience actually feels the same way that you do and the way that you wanted them to. If your audience is sad when your character goes through something tragic, then you know you have hit your mark and you've achieved the goal that you've set out to achieve. So writing a ghost story was really rewarding. It was a difficult task. It was like putting together a puzzle, and it was definitely very worthwhile. So happy Halloween. If you're up for a good read and you're interested in a good ghost story with some historical fiction involved, check out my novel, The Ghost of Lil.
Okay, we're back. Thank you, Kimberly. That was very informative. And I guess good for those to know that are writers that haven't explored this genre.
We didn't really touch on everything. I had written down the show You, which is now, so it's a book, but it's also on Netflix. And
It's a series on Netflix.
He's a stalker, but there was something about it that kept me interested, and then I really didn't like some of the aspects of it, obviously, because it was kind of dark. But it did catch my attention.
It is. I think it's the way he presents it, where even though he's a twisted man, he makes himself feel relatable.
Yes, and he's kind of like an anti-hero, where he's like, you like him and hate him at the same time.
Yes, it's twisted. It's twisted.
It was. I think that was well written, and that might be kind of fun because you're not quite sure to watch for the Halloween season. But are they coming out with a season 4? Oh.
I don't know, but I think they should stop it where it's at, because I feel like it's lost its touch. Anyways,
yeah.
and we forgot to mention about.
Yeah, we actually were gonna mention that we have
something absolutely identical. It's exactly identical. So if you discover, in our costume, if you discover what that is,
we'll send you a fun prize. We discussed some really fun ones.
Exactly.
And I guess we didn't touch on vampires either, but I would like to do an episode just on vampires.
Well, thank you for joining us
for
Positively Literary,
our Halloween edition, and we hope you guys have a spooky and safe Halloween.